Hello. Hi, my name's Ian. I'm with Author's Cabin on YouTube. I am joined by the fabulous Greta Kelly. And Greta, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, hi. Like Ian said, I'm Greta Kelly. I'm the author of Frozen Crown and the Seventh Queen and The Queen of Days, which is an unrelated fantasy novel that's coming out in October of this year. But yeah, otherwise, I'm a Wisconsin writer, knitter, and D&D lover. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I just started a D&D campaign and it's already so far off the rails.
Oh my God. That's the best part of D&D, though. I swear you
Yeah.
learn so much about storytelling from
Well, you really
doing something
learn how good
collaborative
the
like that.
the DM is at improv pretty quick too.
Oh my gosh. I am always in awe of our DM. I don't think it's something I could ever do.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who has DM'd before, it is quite the challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning with you. How did you get into writing?
Oh God, I've always been writing. I was one of those kids that was like, writing their own stories when they were really little. And by writing, I mean really, I was just drawing and telling my mom stories, and she would write them down. Um, Actually, though, when I was young, I was really dyslexic to the point where I was like almost held back a grade. So for me,
Really?
learning to actually read, yeah, huge challenge. I wasn't like a really proficient reader until almost middle school.
Do you still
God, in
have
fact,
some
I
struggles with that, or is it
I
something that you've
still
like?
do more with numbers. I really leaned into the reading and writing
I also
aspect
hate
to like
math.
my therapy, but yeah, math was such a struggle for me. I laugh. I was formerly in finance, so I guess it's not that
Oh,
much of a
I
struggle.
hope you didn't bankrupt anybody.
No. But yeah. So reading and writing was a real challenge for me, and I have this really vivid memory of being. It's been the summer before sixth grade.
Mhm.
I just swore to myself I was not going to go to middle school being the kid that couldn't read in front of class. So I marched up to my parents' bookshelf and I grabbed the biggest book I could find, swearing that I was going to read it cover to cover. And that book happened to be Gone with the Wind. I read
Not a
it,
bad
and you know
choice.
what? I hated every freaking word.
Yeah, I
I hate
mean,
that book
you were a
to this
child,
day.
so you really, yeah.
No, but like Scarlett O'Hara, like still number one on my list of nemesis. Like she is the worst human being ever invented. You know what? I read that damn book. I just like rage read through it, but it was like the
Wow.
most valuable lesson in persistence that I
I
ever
mean, there is no better
learned.
motivator than public shame.
And after a certain point, just rage, just pure hate, like wanting to
Yeah.
know that Scarlett like lives an unhappy life because that's what she deserved.
I
Spoilers for the ending of Gone with
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Wind
I
if anyone
barely
hasn't
remember anything
read
about that
it.
book. I think read it in like it's been a minute. I'd probably have a
uh,
lot different because have you read it recently?
no, like
I
I said,
probably have
I've
a
never.
lot different appreciation for it now.
I'm sure it would hit very differently as an adult
Yeah.
than it did as an angsty preteen.
Mm.
But yeah, so that was my first like introduction to reading. But it couldn't have happened at a better time because when I went into sixth grade was when the Harry Potter books started to become really famous in the US.
Mm.
And Rowling has her problems now, but back then it got a lot of kids into reading and writing, and I was one of them. So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, say what you will about her now, but back then she was, it would be sacrilege to talk bad about her for sure.
yeah. Yeah, I
um,
mean, Water Books and Twilight, they basically created the young adult
oh my God, were you a
age
Twihard?
category just by themselves. No, I missed Twilight. I
Okay.
read that, but it wasn't until college, so I kind of knew that they were like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, back when it was coming out, like a lot of my contemporary peers were like really into it when it was like popular,
Yeah.
and I think it was just really edgy for me to hate it because that's what most guys
Yeah.
did. And like looking back, like, and as somebody that like writes now, I feel like I can respect it. Like it's popcorn fluff, right? But like
Yeah.
it did the
Right.
job. It did the job
It did
really
the
well.
job. And I also kind of think like whatever gets people reading, like that's
Mhm.
a win. I don't care if
Yeah.
it's comic books or like cheesy bodice ripping romances, like Just read a freaking book occasionally. Do yourself a
Yeah.
favor.
I mean, I wish I could have wrote Twilight. I'd be swimming in money right now. It'd be great.
I mean, yeah. She's got all the right problems.
So that was your beginning years. Move me up to the current things. What are you doing right now? Like, how did you get into the books that you're currently writing?
Yeah, so gosh, so I started like writing stories and I guess I started trying to write my first book when I was in high school.
Hmm.
And it was a crime against the English language.
Dude,
But it
same.
was the first one. Like we all have one that's
Yep.
just complete garbage that will never see the light of day, but it was
Hmm.
like the first little step.
Every author's
And
got a skeleton.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny. After that, I went off to college. I didn't get my English degree because I just had this like fit of, you know, Midwestern German pragmatism, thinking that like no one could make money as a writer, so get a business degree, idiot. That's what I did. I went to college and got a business degree. And I was working my like first job out of college was as a banker at a local bank, and I was so miserable. So during my lunch hours, I just started writing a book. And so I was that weird lady at lunch who didn't talk to anyone and was just scribbling like furiously in a notebook. And that's how I came back to writing. And that second book that I wrote was also a garbage fire that shall never see the light of day. But the third one was The Frozen Crown.
Third
And
time's
that's
a
the first
charm,
one
huh?
that got published. That's right. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying about the alone because like I for those people that want to write books out there, get a job that doesn't take all of your like energy and motivation out of you, and then like
Yeah. A
even one that
slightly
like
boring job is like,
yeah, honestly, like I've really learned this about myself kind of recently is that if I had a job that engages me mentally, I'm like happier at work, but I also write nothing.
right. There's just no time. But if you have a job that's like slightly boring, that you have
Hmm.
like 15 minutes here or there, oh, that's gold. And you could crank out a book a
Yeah,
year at
yeah, for
that job.
sure. And oh God help the people that disturbed me when I was writing. I'd like pick a table like way out of the way, and they'd come over, and I'd like stare daggers at them, like get out of my face right now.
It was like just getting in the groove, you
uh,
monster.
so what do you have published out right now that people could pick up if they wanted to?
Yeah, so right now, the Frozen Crown Warrior Witch duology, they are complete and out and on the shelves wherever you buy books.
Okay, is there a continuation of that series that's going to be happening?
Not right now. Fingers crossed, maybe someday, but publishing being the business that it is, you just never know. So my
Yeah.
third book, it's called The Queen of Days. That kind of sounds like it could be related. It's really very different, but it's all
Okay.
good.
All right. So the Frozen Crown series for now is
Mhm.
complete.
Right. For now
Okay.
is complete.
And then the Queen of Days is your new one that you're currently working on, or is it out yet?
So it's done. It'll be out in October of 2023. So I'm just waiting on the last round of copy edits and hopefully a cover like any day now. I can taste it, but fingers
Okay.
crossed it'll be here
All
soon.
right. That's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, what are some like similar kind of genres or books that people that would be interested in yours would probably be into? Just so we can give like a
Yeah, so Frozen Crown books, if you read any of like the Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass books, Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard, City of Brass by Shannon Chakraborty, basically lots of like the high fantasy adventure types of novels. The Frozen Crown is very much in that crossover space where it could be for older teenagers or adults. I suppose my third book, The Queen of Days, is very much like a heist and hijinks. It's like a gunpowder adventure. So that's like my love story to Dungeons and Dragons. So if you like The Lies of Locke Lamora or The Black Tongue Thief or Among Thieves, like that's the book for you.
I just finished Loch Lamora. That was a great read.
Such a good
But
book.
okay, that's a nice little cross section. So you mentioned D&D specifically. Are there any other hobbies that you think that uh, people might be into if they were interested in reading your books? I know that like I don't know, the Hunger Games was like huge for archery, right?
Oh God, yeah. Horseback riding.
Horseback riding? Is there a lot
I
of
used to
like
ride competitively. many, many years ago. So anytime I can jam a horse into any of my books, I will.
I love that. I love that so much.
As far as other hobbies, I mean, I'm learning to draw. I'm very terrible at it, but anyone who out there who likes to learn hobbies, just follow me on Instagram and we can commiserate at being bad at things.
You got to start bad at things before you get kind of good at things, right?
That's right.
I,
There's something to be said to like finding a hobby in which there is no pressure or expectation of you being
mm,
any good. It's very freeing.
thank God for that because
Yeah.
there are some hobbies that I've tried that I am absolutely awful at, for sure. So, what are some of your like best memories of your journey through getting your books like published and out into the world?
Yeah, definitely the whole getting my first agent process. So when you start out in the traditional publishing track, you have to send out what's called query letters. It's like a one-page letter that you send into the void of creation and hope that a literary agent will find you and ask you to like be theirs. So for me,
Make it sound
and this is
romantic.
like, yeah, well, one hopes. No. um this is like a rite of passage for all traditionally published authors, because you do this and it's like running full tilt into a brick wall. Like you're just going to get rejection after rejection after rejection. It is like soul shattering. I guess it cultivates really thick skin.
Which is important in the industry.
It is important, and you need an agent because they're the ones that are going to pitch your book to like the traditional publishing houses like Penguin Random House or Simon and Schuster. So for me, when I was starting to query the Frozen Crown, I got an opportunity to go to this workshop in New York. It was called the Work Conference, run by an independent editor. Her name is Rebecca Heyman. She still is an independent editor. She's amazing. Go check her out. But her conference was a little bit different than most of the other writer conferences that you will attend, because with hers, you sent in your query letter and like the first 10 pages of your manuscript before you even got to the conference. And you got the chance where two literary agents would review those materials, and then you'd have like 15 minutes of their undivided attention where they could tell you, oh, this is what could make your query letter better. This is what I loved about your writing sample. This is where I thought you could do more. And for me, because the Frozen Crown had already gone through a pretty extensive editing process, the two conversations I had were pretty much like, we really loved your opening pages. Send me the rest of the book as soon as you get home. By the way, what else do you want to read? So it was really more like getting to know two ordinary people. It was great. So I sent off those manuscripts like the moment I got home, and both of the agents ended up offering me representation. But I just connected with one of them a little bit more, and that was Jennifer Udden, who is
Hold
no
on, your
longer in
audio is
agent.
being
But
weird. Give me a second.
oh no.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, just run us through that like one more time. You sent off the books. What happened then?
Yeah, so I sent off the books to both agents. They both really liked the book. They both offered representation, but I just connected with one of them more, and that was Jennifer Udden, who is no longer in the industry, but she's still, I think she's an independent editor now. You can find her on Readsy. She's amazing, so go check her out. But that was, it's like the first step that makes you feel like, oh, I'm a real writer now. I have an agent. It was really amazing.
Yeah, I think a big thing about writing a book is that like for a very long time you have no source of validation. You have
Right.
nobody telling you like this is good or this is trash. So like
Yeah.
getting that finally I feel like is a huge step for a lot of people. Um
Yeah.
and sometimes it takes two or three tries, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes even when you find an agent, that book might not find a home at a publishing house. It just kind of, it's just the business as it is. It's
Mhm.
hard and it's can be really lonely, but having a good agent by your side can really make the difference.
Yeah, I think that the agents like I think that their side of the coin on this too is like they have to find something that like fits them, you know? And it's
Mhm.
like hard to not take it personally when they reject you, but like sometimes it's just not a fit. Doesn't mean that your story
Yeah.
is not good, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
It's also like a numbers game. Like there's a lot of agents out there. They're all getting like hundreds of emails a month.
yeah.
Don't sweat it if you're not getting a personalized rejection letter or you're getting not getting full or partial requests. Like just take it in stride, and when you feel like it's maybe time to pull back and reassess, do that, but just know that eventually, you'll find it.
hmm Persistence is key, is what I'm told.
Yes.
And thick skin. That and thick skin for sure.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the Frozen Crown. What's your elevator pitch for that?
Yeah, so The Frozen Crown is about Askia, a warrior with a dangerous secret on a quest to save her country from invasion. It is like many fantasy novels. It's filled with epic battles and lots of political intrigue, secret witches, ghosts, and just a little hint of romance thrown in there.
Okay, just a little spice on
It's a
top.
little spice.
um, do you have a favorite character that you've written in this series, in the Frozen Crown series specifically?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my main character Askia is such a badass. So I will love her eternally. But some of the side characters really crept in there and like stole my heart away. So in the Seventh Queen, there is a ghost so my main character Askia can see ghosts. She's a death witch, and one of the ghosts that she meets in the Seventh Queen is named Civ, and she's this pirate captain who died and is now haunting this castle, and she was just hilarious. Like every time she appeared on the page, I was like laughing, wondering why I wasn't just writing a book about her, but maybe someday. She was just so funny, which sounds really odd and like the most authorly thing to do, that someone in your head is making you laugh, but that's just the life of an author, right?
Yeah, it's your characters kind of develop their own personalities. It can really affect the way that you write a thing too. Because like I've noticed that I've gone through plot lines and been like, this character wouldn't do this, so now I have to rewrite the whole damn book.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah,
So
they really do
frustrating,
take on
but it
their own
happens.
personalities. Yeah, yeah. You're laughing because you know how true that is.
Yes, I do.
um, all right, so we talked about your new series. What is the elevator pitch for that one?
Yeah, so the Queen of Days follows a crew of thieves and a time eating demon who are out to steal an ancient statue from their city's governor before he can resurrect a vengeful god. So it sounds very
Okay.
serious, but it's very like heist and hijinks, all about found family tropes. Like TV shows like Firefly really inspired it. Like I said, Dungeons and Dragons. Anytime I can get like a large cast of people together shooting the shit and causing chaos, like that's my happy place.
Hell yeah. All right. I can dig that. That sounds interesting. Are you working on a series for that, or is it just going to be a standalone?
Right now it's standalone. There definitely is series potential with that, but we'll just have to wait and see what the cards hold for that story.
All
God, I
right.
would love for a series though, because I love those characters.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm not even through the process of writing out, like, my full series is not done, but I can't imagine, like,
Yeah.
putting these characters down and, like, resigning myself to be like, all right, I'm never going to pick you back up again. Like,
Yeah. And honestly, that's my biggest piece of advice. Well, one of them, I should say, to new writers. Like, don't, if you want to be traditionally published, I should preface this. Don't write the whole series before you start querying and trying to sell book one, because those other books might never get picked up. And so you could have been wasting like 5 to 10 years of time when really you should have just been working on that first book, and like do the outlines for the other books, maybe write the first 50 to 100 pages of book two, but then try to step away and work on the next series idea or next standalone idea.
mhm. Yeah, I've definitely heard of some like weird contract conflicts where an author like wrote book one and then it didn't sell like well enough to justify the agency picking up book two. And then they
Yeah.
wanted to write book two anyway for the fans that did exist, and they were straight up told that they couldn't because it's copyright by the publisher or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it can
yeah.
be tricky when you're doing the traditional publishing route, but it's going to depend on each contract, and that's what your agent is for, is to help you navigate those contract clauses, and maybe you can
Mhm.
buy your rights back, maybe you can't. Sometimes they expire after a certain number of years, so it could
Mhm.
just be a waiting game.
That's good to mention though, because a lot of authors don't really know how like to look for that when you're in the process and you're kind of like new and you're just like, I
Oh
just
yeah.
give me the money and I'll do the
Yeah.
thing.
No one knows. It is so opaque, but that's the entire point of your agent is that they know.
Hmm.
Like they'll have their own contracts department. And most reputable agencies who have been around long enough, they will have like boilerplate contracts with each of the large houses. So that if there is anything that comes in that they're like, why are you trying to sneak this clause in there? Like that would flag to them immediately.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a, yeah,
Trust your agents, kids.
trust your agent. Yeah. Find
um,
the a good agent and trust them.
yes, 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 yes. So a little bit about you. What are some of your favorite characters in literature, specifically fantasy? Some of your favorite characters in like fiction?
Oh my gosh. Well, I literally just finished reading The Black Tongue Thief. So, basically everyone in there, but there is Kinch. I always say his name incorrectly. Was absolutely hilarious. The author that wrote this, Christopher Buehlman, used to do the Ren Fair circuit as a performer called Christoph the Insulter. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've ever been to Ren Fair, but basically you could hire him to insult your friends. Like he would be, dressed in the full Ren Fair thing, hysterical act. And I didn't realize it was him until I got to the end and I was like looking at the about the author thing. I'm like, wait a minute, I've seen this face before. No way.
That was that guy that called me those names.
That was that guy that insulted my friend that one time. Some things just stay with you. But from recent read, I think he's got to be one of my favorites. I also loved like the really like slightly prickly, but will fight for each other to the ends of the earth kind of like group dynamic in Six of Crows. Yeah, I loved that book too.
Yeah, it's really love hate, you know.
Yep.
And I feel like that mirrors a lot of like modern day friend groups where if you're not making fun of each other constantly, like, are you really even friends? You
Yeah.
know. Um, and then okay, so what are some of the more like interesting set pieces you think that are in all of your published works? Like, and like, what did you do to kind of make them stand out?
Interesting. So I have a political science background. So
Mhm.
when in college, I majored in business as well as international studies, which is basically just that particular university's way of saying political science. So I really tried to bring that to bear in the world building, particularly in the Frozen Crown and the Seventh Queen, because it was a whole world. And so I was really conscious about trying to make sure that every aspect of the story kind of made the world feel more fleshed out and more connected. So, take for instance, like the magic system itself. I was thinking as I was creating it, if there's magic in the world, humans being the crappy, flawed people that we all are, would be trying to utilize this like any other natural resource. So, what do natural resources do to the world? And so that really provided a lot of interesting, like, regional conflicts that I could mine and create more tension between characters all meeting at this extremely lavish court trying to fight for all their individual agendas. And you have my main character who's really like a blunt instrument and very bad at using her words and trying to convince these people who are all out for
Sometimes you
their
need
own
a hammer,
selfish
you know?
gain.
Sometimes you just
You
need a
know,
hammer.
if she could punch her way through life, she would have been very happy with that. But unfortunately, I am a mean literary god, and I would not let her do
Oh,
that.
you know, one of these days it's going to work out for the blunt instrument, but it
Someday.
appears like it's not one of those days.
Nope.
So let me ask you about your writing process itself. What
Sure.
is your routine like? I know that we were mentioning like, at break at work. Is there anything that you do to kind of help you get into the headspace to write?
No, I actually learned pretty early on that I at least couldn't really rely on like needing to have a certain candle or a certain pen and paper or like just the right cup of coffee because I was worried that if there was ever a time when I didn't have all those little set pieces, then I wouldn't like be able to trick my mind into writing. So really, the alarm goes off at 5:30. I have a writer friend in town that we just like text each other like, "I'm at my desk. How about you?" And that's kind of like our accountability. And then I just write until it's time to start my day and get the kids up and move on with life. And that's kind of what works for me. It's not very glamorous, but it does the job.
For me, it's copious amounts of caffeine.
Well, that definitely helps.
Yeah. That's
But I
pretty
do
much
have
all I need.
yeah, a very vivid memory of must have been the Seventh Queen that I was drafting, and my oldest had just been born. I'm messing up the time. I can't remember if I was my oldest or my youngest because I was so exhausted. I had a newborn. I was on deadline. I needed to get this work done. It was 2 in the morning. I was feeding her in with one arm and typing on my phone an email to myself about the scene that I was going to be writing. Like, you just got to get it done. However, you got to get it done. It doesn't have to be glamorous, but just get the words on the page.
Man, I'm jealous. I don't think I would have the wherewithal to juggle kids and like plotting a whole story. Um, okay, final question. Are you a plotter or a pantser? And what is kind of drafting the entire timeline of your story look like?
uh, I am a failed pantser. I tried with my both of my first two really failed garbage fire novels to be a pantser because I just thought there was something romantic about sitting down and like writing wherever the wind took me. And then I realized like, like I am not going to be ever be that person. So now I am a plotter. I always end up doing at least like a large, like bird's eye view of the story outline before I start writing any of my books. And then as I get closer to feeling like I have more of the world pieces and more of the characters fleshed out, I'll go in and do a more rigid, like 3 act, however many sequence outline to kind of guide me along the way. It doesn't sound as like exciting to be a plotter as it is to be a pantser, but um, it's what works for me. And I think, especially if you're going to go into the traditional publishing route, you should at least be familiar with how to outline and how to write synopses because as your career advances, that's how you're going to sell books.
Hmm.
So you're going to need to learn how to write a good synopsis, whether that's a 2 page synopsis or a 5 page synopsis. What makes writing those so much easier is learning how to write an outline first. So
As a pantser, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like you waste so much time on stuff that like you just end up throwing in the trash because you're like,
oh my
okay, I gotta
gosh,
take
I
this in different
know. I
directions.
was you. I was you. Trust
Yeah.
me. I wrote that second book was like 600 pages of tangent. Like
Hmm.
I spent like 3 years on a story that just wasn't gonna go anywhere because I wasn't sure where it was gonna go.
Yeah, I think that you get like good ideas from pantsing, but it's definitely hard to like make it all coherent over the course of like an entire novel.
Yeah. And the other thing I think that stopped me from outlining sooner was worrying that like all the creativity and that like spark of inspiration was going to completely abandon you. And it doesn't. Like the outline is just a guidepost. It's like if you get too lost in the weeds, it's how you steer yourself back. Or if you find something new, well then this little note card of the outline can go in the garbage, but yeah, you find your way back to it eventually.
Mhm. All right, well, thanks for spending your time with us. Um, really looking forward to the panel at Anime MKE. Hopefully, people
I'm
that
so
are there
excited.
will end up seeing this video at some point. Um, and definitely check out Greta's books, Frozen Crown series. And when's the next one come out?
October of this year, 2023. Hopefully October 24th, but you never know with publishing that could change by a week or two
Yeah,
a little bit. So
a little asterisk right next to
yeah.
the.
But keep an eye on my social media feeds. I'm at Greta K. Kelly pretty much anywhere. As soon as that cover is ready, I will be sharing it with the world.
Nice, nice. Look forward to that. All right. Thanks for spending your time. Take care.